Please welcome the director, Claire Simon. Thank you, Claire. Actually, we can go on stage here so people can see us. Thank you. We have time for a short Q&A. Claire needs to take a taxi to the airport shortly, but I'd love to involve you, so please do raise your hand if you have a question out there after I've initiated. Thank you very much for your film. Should I block the light?
Yeah, thank you.
I'll go here, cast a shadow on you. Thank you very much for your film. Firstly, I wanted to ask about the kind of subject matter. We see an initial kind of title card which announces what we're about to see. I think the English translation is a series of unusual encounters or unusual conversations.
Yeah.
And we do see a series of unusual conversations between young adults or children growing into becoming adults. I wondered how that became the focus of the subject, whether it was something that began as a wider study of these young people, and then conversation and dialogue and the interaction verbally became the real focus of the film.
Yeah, well, it was very difficult to explain in a few lines that those kids, they only met once a week for their cinema option in their class. Mm-hmm. So they didn't know each other very well. And I thought that it was interesting to show the high school as a public space for them. Like, okay, you go and take courses, but one of the main interests in high school is that you meet your friends and you can say every day what's going on. And so I thought that it would be a sort of portrait of the high school as a public space, as a place where you chat, and you chat a lot when you're a teenager, I think. So, and the truth was that they didn't know their own stories, each other. So it was really a strong thing that they wanted to. I was commissioned to make a film with them, a short fiction film, and it ended this, which is a documentary. Because, I think we decided together that after I did some work with them, me with them directly, that I shot, but I thought that it was much more risky for them to have conversations between them and to realize what they were saying, not only to the audience, but to their friends. It's much more in the world of YouTube and the fact that you face the camera and you speak to no one you see, then you speak to someone that you're going to see every day. So
yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting element of it. It does kind of lack any sort of mobile phone or interaction with social media, which is, yeah, unusual to see a young person without a phone in front of them.
Yeah, and they were really willing to do the film and to do it that way, and it was a great thing for them to discover each other's story and what do you do when you listen to someone else's story, mm-hmm. and what do you do with it and how. And the fact that suddenly it's less than a performance of you telling your story, but more that if you listen, then suddenly you project yourself in your friend's story. It's like seeing a film, and then you forget your life for 5 minutes. And this is the whole point of, I was explaining to them that if you listen, then suddenly a story appears. And if you don't listen, there is nothing. So we were experimenting this kind of things, but it's all true. And I didn't know at all what was going to appear. It's just that I knew a bit of it because I had the interviews before with them. And so sometimes I would say, I would show them a bit the way, and sometimes I didn't say anything.
Mm. So there were occasions where you kind of instigated the subject
matter. Yeah, but
it was
like the subject matter was solitude at the beginning, mm-hmm. because I said this is one thing that we can share through generations, is the experiment of solitude, and I didn't realize it was such a strong button to press for them.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was,
and it's particularly unique with a generation who usually interact non-verbally through text and through social media.
Yeah, and it's also because they were at that point between, they were suddenly realizing that they had to leave their family, and so they were not sure whether solitude is a good thing and it's a bad thing. And I liked very much the ambiguity of it, because they always say, yes, with my earphones I'm in my bubble and I know nothing of the rest of the world, and this is perfect. And on the other hand, solitude was a bad thing because it meant that it didn't work in their family, that it didn't. So
I wondered if you could speak of the other element in the film that I really love it, because it creates a kind of round balance with some characters, the kind of more playful aspects where we see dance or even just a scene of somebody running down the stairs. Were they also kind of moments that you instigated, or were these more kind of observational pieces?
Well, because I did the interview, like Anaïs, she does Bollywood dance. So I thought, when I interviewed her, I said, show me, and it was wonderful. And she's so funny, and so I thought that, she is the chief of the dance of, but you can see that in another moment she's the chief. She's
she's much better than the others.
She's showing the dance to the others. So there is this. They like to escape in movies, in dancing, in writing, and even though it's a very quite poor neighborhood, and they are not, they live in bad suburbs and everything, but they don't speak the suburb language.
Mm. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about your presence. Were you there to teach cinema briefly in that moment?
There is a very nice cinema in that city, and they have a partnership with the town hall and the high school to have a filmmaker every year to come and do a short fiction film that the director would write and direct and use the students as actors and technicians. And that was what I was going to do. But I changed my mind, and they changed their mind during the process, because they were so committed by the fact of talking about themselves and their stories. And now I think they realized what was the link of that with making a film, and what is good dialogue. It's
and maybe more literally, if you could talk a little bit about how you operate. I sense this calmness and sensibility that is evident in your previous works. It's kind of hard to identify, but it's there. A sense of listening and a sense of looking and being there with your characters. I wondered if you could talk about how you operate. Do you film alone, and were you there for quite a period to build relationships with the subjects?
This film was done very quickly, in fact, and because they were so willing and so bright, I think. I was amazed by the fact that they were absolutely able to think and talk. And they were, I don't know if you realize that as you don't speak French, but they are so good actors. It's their life, they're saying the truth, but I mean, they are absolutely, I don't know how you say that in English, they are completely, they're not fussing, they're not showing off, it's completely true, the way they say things. And I was amazed by that all the time. Like, who could think, I said to the young boy he was the only one who didn't talk very much in the interview. It was very difficult, the great Hugo. And but I understood that he talked about love with girls only when when something didn't go well with his girlfriend. So I told him, why don't you talk about love why don't you talk with those two girls? And they didn't know very well each other. And the scene is, and you see after 2 minutes of talking about love, Manon, she says, are your parents together? And immediately it goes back to family, and then it goes back to, and suddenly he opened up so deeply, you know, he cries, and you can see his father in his having the dinner alone in front of the computer. I mean, they were willing to, they gave themselves very strongly. And I was there to receive it. Because I was very, of course, interested, and I thought that it was a sort of strong shout of this generation against the former generation.
I'm afraid I've been given the Claire needs to take a taxi.
No,
warning signal.
We have 5 minutes.
We have 5 more minutes, okay. So we can open to audience questions. There's a lady down here at the front.
Thanks very much. It was a beautiful film. Really enjoyed it. I was just wondering that the theme of their relationship with their parents, did that emerge during the process, or is that something that was decided before?
No, it was always, that's what I was saying about this scene, is like even the first interviews I did, which are not in the film, like the red hair boy, I told him, as I am a red hair, I told him, how come your red hair and everything? And he said, I took everything from my father. I inherited everything from my father. I said, oh, okay, what does your father do? And he said, oh, I don't know, I haven't seen him for 10 years. You see, it's immediate. And then he talks about his father and the fact that he doesn't need a father. And it's like in that, all the time it was coming back. Because I think the main model in the film was that, okay, our parents, they don't believe in love. Love fails. You can't trust love. And we are in love with our boyfriend and girlfriends. And how will we manage? What kind of love we will believe in? And this is a big question for them. How come they can manage between the failure of love with their parents and the hope of love they have? And I think it's a big civilization question that we have to face, more or less.
And I just wanted to ask about the numbers within each interaction. Obviously, at points, it's a dialogue between two people, and moments when it opens to, I think, 5 at the maximum.
Yeah.
Was that also a kind of...
Yeah, because I realized that more than 3 was the maximum. 4, yeah. At the end, you have the 4 girls. Yeah, 4, 5. But very quickly, when it's more than 3, they don't. It's the fear comes back, and they feel awkward and like that, and then it's not true as much as it is when there are 2 or 3, where there is a sort of complete gift between one another in the dialogue.
There's less honesty, do you mean, with more performance?
It's everyone is more defending himself, and that's what I realized. Yes, it was.
We have time for one very last audience question. The lady just at the front here.
Thanks a lot. It's a very beautiful portrait of this generation and of life. I really love it.
Thank you.
I was curious about if they were also working as making the camera and audio, if they were helping with that, and if you have screened the film to them and their parents, and if yes, what happened?
Well, they were 3 or 4 of them. Not everyone was killed for the sound, but a lot of them did the sound, the boom, and that's why it's very clever of them to have those conversations, taking care of the microphone, because there was wind, we had no good material, and it's all linked, and they were very good at that. So in the middle of the editing, the theater asked me for the town hall and for them to show. I showed a part of the film with the parents who didn't come, mainly because the students didn't tell them, but they were aware and everything. But it's, but some of the parents came, and Yeah, well, they took the ones who were there they took it very well, as it was quite strong against them. And the other students of the high school were really impressed, and they thought that I was, torturing them to say terrible things about their families. And it was nice because they were all there, and they said, but we want to say that. And they came to Berlin to present the film, all of them. And so it's obvious that it's one moment, it's ephemeral. It doesn't last forever. It's one moment of their life. But they are, as a group, it made them a group. And they want to say that to the world, I think. To the audience. They really are committed to the film, yes. Not only because it's cinema, it's because they feel that it's how a story becomes a question they have to themselves, becomes shareable with a friend and then with the rest of the world, and then it's a process that they want to keep on. Well, they're quite proud of the film, yes.
And you should be proud of the film too. Please put your hands together for Claire.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.